Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes, and man, this is the Raw Recap. This is the Raw Recap show for the April 30th edition of Monday Night Raw. If you're watching this live, I appreciate it tonight. If you're watching it live on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, because, well, I was pulled aside and was asked to go and sub last minute. There were some issues with my pals over at Fightful, so I decided to jump in here, and I decided to jump over, give them a hand, and head on over here for a late night recap of Monday Night Raw. I want to thank you if there's anyone still around, if there's anyone still here. There are people here. There are folks here. And Bobaruski says it's Tuesday. Well, I know, but we're still talking about Monday Night Raw, right? Right, of course we are. That's what we're going to be talking about this evening. And I really appreciate if you guys are still hanging around, and maybe you're listening to this as well in podcast format. And that again, doesn't matter what day or what time it is. You can listen to it on your favorite podcast application over whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, Himalaya, Podcoin, whatever it is. You can just look for Mr. Warren Hayes, and I'm there. So of course, we can't really talk about tomorrow. We're going to talk about later on today, Tuesday evening. On Tuesday evening, later on today, it's going to be not my 205 Live, but my SmackDown Live recap show, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, and guaranteed I'll be on time. There will be no surprises, barring a cataclysm of cataclysmic importance. I will be here, and then I'll be also on Wednesday over on FightfulSelect.com to do my usual 205 Live NXT UK recap show, the premium service for Fightful.com. It starts at $5 a month. You get a whole breadth of great content, news, exclusives, previews, more podcasts. You should go check that out. That's fantastic. And then we also have, and then on top of that, this weekend, I will also be recording an episode of No Particular Angle from my boy John JPQ, that Big Paws on a Pup. That's his show. We're going to be talking, I think we're recording this. Yeah, we're recording this on Friday, I think. I'm not sure exactly when he's going to be releasing it. But that's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be recording an episode there as well. And if you haven't checked it out yet, Revisionist Booking Podcast is one you should check out. I recently recorded an episode over there where we revisionist book. We take a card. We took, specifically in this case, Spring Stampede 1997. We looked it over. We decided, and basically what you do is you take, this is the concept of the show. I'm not making this up and I was like, hey, this is what you do. The concept of revisionist booking is that you take everyone who's on the card and then you rearrange it and do something new. You try something else with that card. So that's fantastic. That was a fun show to do. And I was invited there. So you should go check it. That was convoluted. Revisionist Booking. Go listen to it. My episode is there. Spring Stampede 1997. That was a lot of fun. There you go. And man, there are people in the live chat right now, and I'm blessed. I'm truly blessed. Honestly, I'm very, very touched that so many of you are still here regardless. Just bringing my monitor closer. We have Bobaruski's here, Maven, we have Colton, J King, CM Phil, Sports and Things, Mr. Fret. Zzz. Yes, I apologize for the tardiness this evening. Won't happen again, ever. You can rest assured that it will never happen again. And even though Jay King says that he had more important things to watch tonight than Raw, like Avengers Endgame for the 18th time, man, how many of you, chat? How many of you got the chance to go see the Avengers movie this weekend? Man, that was something. Oh, we're not going to discuss spoilers, okay? Just in case there are people who are watching right now and who haven't seen the film. We're not going into spoiler territory, but I will say this. One thing that I will say, as much as I love the movie, I really felt like it was the first Marvel movie where I absolutely would say to someone who's never seen a Marvel movie or goes in here, I would definitely tell them, you know what, before you go, you have to see, there's a bunch of movies you have to watch before going into this one. Like everyone, there's no other Marvel film, I believe, that you really have to have watched, that there are other films that you have to have watched before going into this one here, before going into another one. Like you can watch Doctor Strange without having seen Guardians of the Galaxy, or you can go see Age of Ultron without having seen the original Thor. Everything still works. But this one here, you have to have a couple of movies under your belt here before you jump in. So yeah. So I hope you guys do have a chance to go check it out, especially if you've seen other Marvel movies. Otherwise, you might be a little bit lost. Anyway, I'm very glad that there's some late night folks here who are kind enough to hang around and wait for me. I appreciate that. I really do. So let's go right ahead. Let's start talking about Monday Night Raw. A very, oh boy, it's there episode. Starts off with Alexa Bliss, who comes to the ring to announce the Raw competitors, the Raw men who are going to be the Raw men. I'm hungry. I'd love some ramen right now. A big bowl. Just slurp it down. Oh, now that's what I want. I guess I'm going to have to get some after the stream is done. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll just go to bed. So Alexa Bliss basically is she's in the ring to announce which of the Raw men are going to be competing in the Money in the Bank match in a couple of weeks. Braun Strowman is announced, Ricochet is announced, Drew McIntyre is announced, and Baron Corbin is announced. And chat, of course, chat, I would like to know what you guys think about these choices. As I talk a little bit here, Corbin, basically, Corbin comes down with a microphone and he cuts a promo as he's heading towards the ring. Ricochet calls him out, calling him a loser, basically saying you lost the Money in the Bank briefcase. And Corbin sort of takes exception to that, but Drew McIntyre says, yeah, you know what? The new guy has a point. Calls him a loser as well. Drew is basically guaranteeing that he's going to win. There's some banter. Braun jumps in and he says, he's calling himself again Mr. Monster in the Bank because, his briefcase was very successful as well. So basically, this segment essentially sets up a match between Ricochet and Braun Strowman in a team versus Baron Corbin and Drew McIntyre. One thing I want to point out here, I don't know if you guys heard, but there's a substantial amount of heat on Lio Rush right now. Not quite sure what Lio Rush's status within the company is, but apparently he's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way, and he's He's not exactly Mr. Popularity in the locker room right now. Very brash personality, and he's overstepping his boundaries. Let's put it that way. So, Lio Rush was not with Bobby Lashley. So now it seems like they're shifting. You look at this small guy. Look at this younger guy. Has your mommy allowed you to come out here? They're sort of shifting that gimmick over to Ricochet, which I don't approve of. Because while Lio Rush did look very small and looks very young, when compared to the larger guys that he's around, Ricochet's not that. He's not that small a guy. He's really not. And I don't like that they're shifting, or if that's a plan at all, that they're shifting over to him on that end. Anyway, we have a match. Braun and Corbin go at it. Braun tosses Corbin to the outside, which allows Ricochet to hit his parkour moonsault off the ring post, and that gets a huge reaction, a huge Ricochet chant. But then again, he's in Kentucky. There's a bit of a hometown advantage here. Drew catches Ricochet off of a body press, goes for the standing vertical suplex, but Ricochet reverses out of it. But Drew chops him down. Drew stays in control. Corbin gets back in, punching, kneeing Ricochet. The main event chin lock follows. And scissors and a drop kick by Ricochet allow him to fight back against Baron Corbin, but he takes Ricochet down with another big Golden Gloves right hand. We finally in the match, of course, finally Strowman gets a big hot tag, and what a reaction he got from the audience as well. He crushes Drew in the corner, he clubs him down, and he gets some offense in. Ricochet gets back in, but he allows the heels to get back in control. Ricochet, you silly man. Match comes to an end when Drew is about to take out Ricochet with a Claymore. Corbin, though, tags himself in to take advantage of the situation and perhaps get the win and the glory for himself. But somehow Ricochet is able to get Braun Strowman in. Corbin tries to back away and tag Drew back in, but Drew punches Corbin right in the kisser, which allows Braun Strowman to hit his running power slam and a shooting star press by Ricochet instead of the usual 630 splash. And that is the win for the babyfaces to start off tonight's edition of Raw. And in the chat right now, CM Phil says that he's all about Ricochet being in the Money in the Bank. Ricochet's a good choice. Says Maven Glean, Corbin is a waste of her time. And she wishes that they were using Drew in a different way. I want to say a shout out to John JPQ, who's in the chat right now. How you doing? This was an okay segment / match. I'm okay with it. Hopefully they don't have us run through. Hopefully they don't have us run through the whole will they be able to coexist thing too much, because it'll just be ridiculous and pointless, because we do have a few weeks out before getting to Money in the Bank. So there you go. So that was the first match. I really do hope that they continue pushing the fact that that Drew and Baron are no longer friends. They gotta split those guys apart. They gotta move on to other stuff, dudes. Interesting to note, I don't know if you'd seen on Twitter, right? The image, the allegedly leaked promo image where you had Cesaro, right? On the money advertised for Money in the Bank. Braun Strowman wasn't there. All these leaks, card subject to change and all that stuff, right? Right. Next, we have the Usos up against the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, the superstar shakeup continues. It's not just one night a week, a year. I mean, it's one night a week. That's what I meant to say. It's not just once a year. It's once a week where we have people just switching brands for no apparent reason. I don't know. I hope all of this settles down now because I'm personally getting a little exhausted. Anyway, the Usos come out to a huge reaction, and we have our match here where Jay and Carl Anderson start. They start off pretty hot. Jimmy gives, when he comes in, he gives Luke Gallows a too sweet, or at least he signals a too sweet to him before double teaming. Double teaming Anderson in the corner, covers him but only gets two. Jimmy goes for a dive on Luke Gallows, who delivers a big right. And there's a very extended dominant sequence by the Good Brothers. Jimmy tries to get Jay to Jay, who enziguris Luke Gallows on the back of the head, and the hot tag follows. Where Jay comes in with some strikes, a Samoan drop on Carl Anderson, but Carl Anderson reverses with a spine buster, covers Jay for two. The Magic Killer is avoided by a super kick from Jimmy on Carl Anderson. Double super kicks on Gallows follow, and it's Jimmy who hits the Uso splash on Luke Gallows for the win. This was a match that was best served as to be perceived as a match for the Usos. That's pretty much it, right? It was just a match for the Usos. Over on when we were discussing this on Fightful just before I popped on here, Jeff was mentioning and he was talking about, and I concur with this point, that if you're going to bring Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson onto Raw and you want to establish them as a tag team, you want to make them feel important, well, don't have them go right into their first match in losing effort, if it's supposed to feel that way. Give them a few squash matches, a few things to do before actually moving on. That might have actually been helpful. That could have helped. That could have helped a lot. But I guess that's not in the cards for Gallows and Anderson, who are probably going to stay stuck to their losing ways, right? On from SmackDown to Raw, I don't think it's going to be much of a change for them. But here's the real story. Corey Graves at the start of the show was saying, the Usos, they kept telling me backstage, they have something interesting to show us. They have something big. They have something up their sleeve, something new, something that we've never seen before. And I was like, is it a new finishing move? Perhaps some double team? Perhaps something? No, it was nothing of that. After the match, they had some video. Some home video that they shot, apparently using their iPhones, sneaking around the men's locker room, catching on video Dash Wilder shaving his partner Scott Dawson's back. The Revival basically shaving each other. The Usos thought this was really, really funny. The Revival didn't like it all that much. We cut back to the ring area, to the arena, and you have Dash and Scott who are walking down, and they're taking offense to this. They're saying, Scott Dawson is saying, because of the girth of his lats, which was pretty funny. I thought it was a funny line. He can't reach everywhere, so he needs some help. He needs his best friend, and we're men. We are men. We do this. We're not, and I didn't like the tone of that. That sounded a little like just a wee bit homophobic. They have to emphasize this. Whereas if you're most professional sports, or at least a lot of them. There's a lot of professional sports that do require the men to shave. Swimming, competitive swimming, the men shave their entire bodies, leg hair, arm hair, everything. And in wrestling, it's not as if wrestling was something that this was weird. Wrestling is highly cosmetic. We just because dudes come out without any hair on their back or on their shoulders or on their chest doesn't mean they don't have any. Could just very well mean that they get a good waxing. I wouldn't say shaving, maybe just a good old fashioned wax. I gotta tell you, here, this was odd. And I'm not sure. Look, the angle is what it is. We'll see exactly how all this turns out. But I can tell you one thing. I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this thing for sure. The Revival and the Usos don't need goofy reasons to go after each other, and we don't need them to have goofy reasons to go after each other. They are talented tag teams that we want to see wrestle. We don't need a really kooky setup to sell us on this feud. Just let them wrestle. Let talented wrestlers tell the stories they need to tell in the ring, and we'll be happy. Next, we have Miz TV coming up. Miz TV. Sports and Things, by the way, says that the Revival deserve better. Wow. I guess they kind of do. In this edition of Miz TV, Miz has Bobby Lashley coming out. And he is, like I said earlier, sans Leo Rush. And Lashley says that he's going to set some ground rules. Actually, what he says is Bobby Lashley is going to set some ground rules. Bobby Lashley will only answer the questions that Bobby Lashley wants to answer. So Bobby Lashley is now referring to himself in the third person. Bit of a... Hope he asked the appropriate people to take that gimmick. Miz says that there are some people who say that he may not be reaching his full potential. Bobby Lashley responds by saying, "Look, I've been here only a year, and I've already been a 2-time Intercontinental Champion. What have you done, Miz?" And Miz basically invites everyone to go check out his Wikipedia page to see all of his accolades and accomplishments. He even says he's an overachiever. Have you seen my wife? And he said, I've done all of this without a shred of your physical ability, Robert Lashley. Then Lashley brings up Miz's feud with Shane and his father, and it just goes too far. Miz loses it, and this sets up a match between Bobby Lashley and The Miz. As we come back from commercial, Lashley has The Miz in a chin lock. He hits a stalling vertical suplex, covers Miz for 2. Miz fights back, hits some it kicks in the corner, double knees following the corner. He does it twice, actually, and the third time gets interrupted by Shane McMahon, whose music hits. He comes out he sort of hangs around the entrance at the top of the ramp, but he also tries to ambush Miz as well. But Miz is on to him. He's keeping an eye out on him. Shane hops up on the apron, and then he puts a pick on the Titantron of Shane, not Shane, but Mrs. Daz. Mrs. Daz. That's Mrs. Dad. Mrs. Dad is Daz, right? Right, guys? That's right. That's exactly what it is. Please prop me up. Make sure that this is exactly what we're talking about. So basically, Shane puts up the picture of his dad, Mrs. Dad, and this distracts Miz long enough to eat a Bobby Lashley spear, and Miz is dead. Bobby Lashley gets the pin. And then Shane McMahon starts beating him up. And then when Miz tries to fight back, well, Bobby Lashley runs back in and takes Miz out again for Shane, who grounds and pounds him. And then Shane chokes him out, chokes the Miz out. Has a microphone reminding him that he's the best in the world. I'm gonna tell you guys, there's nothing that says to me, like nothing that rhymes like a proper beat down in my eyes than Shane McMahon's working punches. Don't care much for those. Bobarooski saying that I sound like Kyle. Stumbling, come on. I'm a much better stumbler than Kyle from Smart to Death. You kidding me? I stumble over my words with much greater ease than he does. So, not much to this match here. It was fine, but it was about establishing the story. Got to tell you guys, not excited to see Shane McMahon wrestle some more. I was actually kind of relieved that they, over the past couple of weeks where it felt that they were letting this feud die its own proper death. Doesn't look like they're doing it this time around. No siree, Bob. It does not look like that at all. What a shame. Next, we have the Viking Raiders coming out for a match. It's Eric and Ivar. Ivar! And as they're coming down to the ring to get blindsided by the Lucha House Party. What is this? Lucha House rules that they get to do whatever they want. Lince and Metalik take the opportunity to dive. Lince Dorado and Metalik take the opportunity to dive on the Vikings on the outside, try to get an advantage. Back in the ring, Metalik missile drop kicks Ivar. He goes for a handspring back elbow, but Ivar does some cartwheel evasiveness. I'm going to stop for now. He clotheslines Metalik down. Eric grounds Metalik. Kalisto comes in. But none of this really lasts long. The Vikings get back in control. Eric dumps Ivar onto Metalik in the corner. And they hit the Viking Experience for the win on Kalisto. Then Lindsay, for some reason, thinks it's a really good idea to jump into the ring alone and try to take on both members of the Viking Raiders. So they take care of Lindsay with an assisted springboard lariat that takes down the Golden Lynx. It's essentially a squash match. It's an enhancement match. Not much more to say here. It was what it was. It's interesting. As many of you know, I'm an avid 205 Live watcher. I find it fascinating how aggravating the Lucha House Party is on Raw. Whereas on 205 Live, they're absolutely fine. Not a problem with them. It's interesting like that. Maven Glean says, I feel like we just saw this match last week. Oh, because we did. Yes, indeed we did. And I want to say hello to Omni Black, who just jumped in. How you doing? Alexa Bliss is back for another Moment of Bliss segment. This time it is to announce the women competing from Raw. Competing in the Money in the Bank match. She first announces Natalya, who comes out. Then Dana Brooke, who comes out. And Dana cuts a promo on Natty saying, you get all sorts of opportunities. And what Dana has to do, because her promo work, apologies for the sound here, but I'm doing this to prove a point. Dana's promo work has a long way to go. And one of the things she has to do is when she's talking into a microphone and she turns her head that way, we don't hear as well. So usually when you turn your head this way, your microphone sort of follows, right? So your microphone follows your mouth. So if she's talking and she continues over like this because she's talking to Natalia and she's Natalia, you've had all sorts of opportunities. And then she comes back like this, but then she goes back talking. That just doesn't work. That was a demonstration from Mr. Warren Hayes. Live demonstration. Thank you very much. Hopefully Dana Brooke took some notes. So basically, Alexa then announces that Naomi is going to be added as well to the Money in the Bank match. And Naomi talks some more trash to the other two women, and then Alexa says, you know what? You guys should all be, should be ashamed of yourselves, because right now all your catty bickering is just taking up the opportunity from one of your women's colleagues to come out here and have their own moment in the limelight as a member of the Money in the Bank match. And she says, we need to show some dignity. Let's announce this last competitor. This last competitor is me, Alexa Bliss. And of course we all saw that coming. That's good. That's good that she's in the match. Naomi takes offense to this, and she sort of challenges Alexa to a match, saying, but Alexa says, look, I wish I would, but I can't. Look at how I'm dressed up. I mean, these aren't even my shoes. I had to borrow these shoes. But the match happens nonetheless. We have Alexa Bliss versus Naomi, which wasn't much of a match, really. Outside of the story of Alexa Bliss's shoes, there wasn't much here. Naomi got some offense in that looked good. She bulldogs Alexa into the second turnbuckle. This was actually a spot where she propped herself up on the turnbuckles, she being Naomi, and reverse head scissored Alexa and stuffed her into her ass face first. So that was a spot that happened. Alexa then drops Naomi shortly thereafter. But the story here is that Alexa's having trouble with her shoes. They won't stay tied. They just won't. So the match basically comes to an end when after Alexa being in control for a substantial part of the match, Naomi gets the shoes off and hits the rear view and the split-legged moonsault for the win. I'm okay with Naomi getting a win. That's not a problem. This was just very ordinary. Very, very ordinary. So now we'll see what kind of raw buildup we have from this point on. Bobaruski says someone should clip me taking giving some microphone advice. I agree. Send that to Dana. Don't do that. Maven Glean asked the question that everyone's wondering: what on earth does borrowing someone else's shoes have to do with anything? And I agree. And CM Phil says that this was a nothing match. We also had the return of the Firefly Funhouse with Bray Wyatt. Bonjour, says Bray, wearing a beret. He says that he loves to paint. He has a little easel set up and he's painting. And he says painting is a way to express my suppressed feelings. Because of course. He says when you're expressing yourself, no one can ever really help you. And then we're introduced to a new character from the Funhouse, Rambling Rabbit. Says, "Sup, Bray? You see you painting, Bray?" Something like that. He had like this jive, this jive attitude. And basically, Bray is painting a house burning. Perhaps dare we say that it is the Wyatt compound? And in the house, there's a little person right there who's burning inside the house. We also learn through Abby the Witch's interference here that the word of the day is sociopath. That is the word of the day. Look, I'm happy that they're not just rehashing the last week's episode over and over again, because that was something I was kind of afraid of. But no, I mean, if we're going to get more episodes like this, and we are going to dive deeper and deeper into creating some sort of madness for Bray Wyatt, I am all for it. This is something that I am looking forward to. This should be a lot of fun. Maven in the chat says, "Oh, did you see the new t-shirts? There's a much better design than the first one." Okay, I didn't see that one, because there was the original terrible design, which was basically just like the Firefly Funhouse logo that they have up on the screen on the TV, just like ironed on to t-shirts. It looked terrible. Apparently they have something new, which is good. Omni Black says he's trying to follow in Kane's footsteps. Let's see where this goes, but I'm intrigued. Like, I was intrigued last week, but seeing how they're progressing this, and there's something probably very subconscious happening, I'm very interested to see where this goes. Rey Mysterio's backstage with Dominic. He's cutting a promo. Dominic is huge. Funny line at some point where Rey Mysterio says that he says it's not easy being his size in the land of giants. So I'm not sure if Rey is talking about WWE or if he's talking about just being at home. Dominic, man. Then Becky Lynch comes out. Becky Lynch graces us with her presence. And she is asked, why would you defend both belts on the same night? Seems kind of impulsive. But Becky says, no, there's nothing impulsive about it. But what she's doing, she says that there's no way she's going to hold a division hostage, even if it puts her as a disadvantage. She's going to fight and defend her titles on both brands for both divisions. She's basically alluding to Charlotte, hanging on to the title and not doing anything with it. That's essentially what she's talking about. She says, I didn't make history by dodging anybody. I made history by beating everybody, such as Lacey Evans, that plank. She says, Lacey Evans made a mistake last week by punching someone who likes being punched. Didn't know that about you, Becky. They replay what happened last week, where Becky ate the big right hand, the women's right. But so Becky calls Lacey Evans out. Evans does come out, and she cuts a promo on Becky as she's coming to the ring. But then they just go at each other. They have themselves a good old-fashioned pull-apart brawl. And I thought this was fun. Most of the time, I'm a sucker for a pull-apart brawl. I like pull-apart brawls. Most of the time, I feel they're done really, really well. In this case here, I find that Becky Two Belts, in all the pull-apart brawls that she's been in, she shines. She looks really, really good in them. It's always a good moment for her. And tonight was no exception. Her setup with Lacey Evans was fantastic. The question is, we're still 3 weeks out before Money in the Bank? Are we going to get 3 weeks of pull-apart brawls? What are they going to do up until here? You see, I kind of feel like they should just let Becky Lynch go in and beat people up. Cut back the promo time. Not just he's bad on the stick, but just pull away some promo time. Let her do her thing. Beat people up. She's good at it. It's compelling. It works. Lacey did a good job here. Lacey did a great, great job. That was fun. I liked it. Our next match had the Revival challenge for the Raw Tag Team titles against champions Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins. Hawkins and Dash have some back and forth. Hawkins drop kicks Dash, covers him, but only gets one. Zack drop kicks Dash, who's on the outside as well. But the Revival get quickly into control. Dawson starts pummeling Ryder. He hits a belly-to-back suplex, covers him, but only gets two. There's some nice double team action as well, where Dash hits a drop toe hold on Zack Ryder. Dawson drops an elbow immediately after, covers Ryder again, only gets two. And throughout this match, we get some shave your back chants. So there you go. Successfully executed, WWE. Now, whenever the Revival is going to come out, this is the chant that they're going to get. But here's what the Revival should have responded was, our backs are already shaved. Yeah. Towards the end of the match, there's a suplex. Zack Ryder gets lifted into a suplex, but he reverses it with a nicely executed neck breaker. But Dawson keeps Ryder from tagging out to Hawkins. But Ryder hits a flash roll-up on Scott to get the win. Again, a bit out of nowhere. So the roll-up is once again the downfall of the tag team specialists. It's a little strange, a little odd. But, it was a little weird, a little anticlimactic. But I mean, I guess the feud that they are building towards is the Usos and the Revival, which I'm okay with. This is something that should be a treat to watch. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. Oh, by the way, this is the part also where Miz responded to Shane McMahon's attack by challenging him to Money in the Bank. Have him in a cage match at Money in the Bank. That's what you want? Well, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get Shane McMahon and his working punches in a cage with The Miz. They won't even have the opportunity to throw themselves off of stuff. Sheesh. We have Sami. You know Sami Zayn? Sami Zayn. That's Bizarro. Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn. That's what it should be. Sami Zayn comes out for another promo talking about how he's done a lot of soul searching over the last 9 months. He's even studied, history, sociology, psychology, stuff to make people understand. And he, it made me help understand you people. We're going back to the you people promos, guys, and look, I like Sami Zayn. I like Sami Zayn a lot. He's a fantastic wrestler. He's extremely charismatic. He's a great entertainer. He's a great promo. His delivery is on point. But they got to give him more material, because right now it just feels like he's retreading the same stuff over and over again. And it's either there, could be a combination of things, because I don't want to give the impression that I don't think that Sami Zayn isn't talented, because he is. But, Daniel Bryan was able to pull off the You People stuff and extend it, give it a lifetime, because he's so talented in the ring, on the microphone, and he knows how to warp it around, and he probably has some measure of creative influence that it stayed true to his voice and stayed fun to listen to, and always seemed to build on week after week. Like I said, I really don't want to give the impression that Sammy doesn't have the qualifications. I think the writing stinks here. I think the direction is pointless, and he's not pulling it off. And like, my limit has been, like, I've been saturated at this point, having a wrestler come out and tell me, you people suck. You need to be enlightened. Especially since we already have something very similar over on SmackDown with Daniel Bryan. Feels a little weird here. So, I'm going to tell you, I'm hoping they move on next week. I hope there's something special to happen. That will happen, with Sami Zayn. And I'm thinking, nonetheless, that I'm thinking that splitting or keeping Sami and Kevin Owens away from each other, they're on two different brands, I think it's good. It's going to be good for those two guys. They're probably going to feel like, they are doing something new and not just revisiting the same old stuff. I think it's good. Give them a breather. Let both Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn live without each other, without having to influence their careers for a wee bit. Let's not go back to that too quickly. I want to say hello to Joel from Sydney, Australia. Look, there's an advantage to doing these streams super late. We get people from Sydney, Australia popping in. So that was fantastic. Thank you for popping in, Joel. CM Phil says, I started falling asleep at this point. A babyface needs to confront him. He's been doing this all month without entering a feud. I agree. I think we're both basically saying the same thing. His promos have run their course here. Maven Glean says, I like You People promos when Warren is the one cutting them. I don't cut You People promos. What are you talking about, you people? I want to say hello to Demon Assassin as well, who's jumped into the chat. Final match of the evening pitted Samoan Joseph versus Rey Mysterio. Joe cuts a promo before the match starts. It's a non-title affair, by the way. The U.S. title is not up for grabs here. Joe says, he cuts a promo and he talks about Dominic. Says, your son tells you that he loves you, Ray. But when I look at your boy, I see a son who is ashamed at how quickly I put you to sleep at WrestleMania. It was a 60-second match, after all. You should have got Dominic a mask. Make him hide his shame in public, Ray. Of course, when Ray comes out, since he's talking about his family, talking about his son, Ray's all business at this point. He just comes down and they go at it. Joe starts smashing Ray down, though. Tosses him to the floor. There's a dive by Joe, but Ray rolls back into the ring really quickly to avoid the dive, of course, and instead kicks Joe back down to the floor. Ray does his boogie board dive under the bottom rope, but Joe gets his knees up, and Ray went owie, ow, ow, ow. Not literally, though. Figuratively speaking. Back from commercial, Ray is kicking Joe, but he runs into a tight, and really, really fast spinning power slam by Joe. A little later on, Ray goes for a lion salt, but he's caught by Joe. But then Ray reverses it into a DDT. There's a 619 to Joe's midsection. There's a messy Rana spot off the top rope that didn't quite click. It sets Ray, not Ray, but Joe up for the 619, but it's blocked, and instead of Uranagi follows. But Ray sort of rolls Joe over to stack him down. Not a really great finish, and the referee seemed to be out of position, and it sort of took away from the snappiness of the ending. It felt a little soft, a little bland. But yeah. Wasn't much there. But I mean, it's not it wasn't much of a match. Again, setting stuff up. I think this was the theme tonight. Like, not much in matches, but just setting things up. And I really felt like feel like Joe and Rey Mysterio can have a better match together than this, for sure. For sure. Wasn't terrible, but it wasn't anything special either. Sports and Things says the episode of Raw was booked backwards as far as Joe and Ray go, and I think the Dominic turn happens at Money in the Bank. I don't know why people are saying that he's going to turn on his dad. I think Samoa Joe's going to fuck him up. That's what I think is going to happen. CM Phil says Joe has the smoothest power slam in WWE. And Maven says, so is Samoan Joseph the designated person who gets family-involved storylines? I do believe so. Finally, our main event is a main event contract signing. I'm not a fan of contract signings to begin with because it's always the same thing. And when they main event this, your main event is a contract signing, I'm like, oh, for God's sake. Blah. It's the contract signing between Universal Champion Seth Rollins and his challenger AJ Styles to solidify the match at Money in the Bank. There's a lot of banter back and forth here, where they both banter at each other, sitting comfortably in their respective chairs, safely across each other. Respect, but not really respect. And how many times have people said that Seth is going to be the next AJ Styles? Seth says, I don't want to be the next AJ Styles. I want to be the first Seth Rollins. I'm getting bored just talking about it again. This isn't the house that AJ Styles built. This is Monday Night Rollins, says Seth Rollins. But then AJ Styles says you're going to have to be better. You're going to have to be phenomenal. Or something like that. The one, when it gets interesting is once they sign the documents, and then there's some posturing. There's some titles being raised over one's head. Some posturing. But then AJ throws fists. He throws them first. He goes after Rollins. And I think that's interesting. Seth fights back and even dives to the outside onto AJ. And we're back into the ring. And in a cool visual to end the show, where I'm like, wow, okay. Cool visual. Phenomenal forearm by AJ Styles, of course, on Seth through the table. I thought that looked good. And that's how we end the show. I wish there was a way to ban the contract signing forever. It bores me. But the payoff at the end was fun, but the whole build up to the payoff is just way too long, and it's always the same thing. So there's no excitement really to it. It's just like there, you know. It's just there. So basically here we have both guys who are setting themselves up for the pay-per-view event. But here's my question. Here's the question that I posit unto you. Does this mean that AJ Styles is a heel now? Because I was looking forward to AJ Styles being a heel. I thought that was really, really interesting. But I'm not sure just how much, I don't know how much AJ Styles is actually a heel at this point. I mean, he did throw fists first, and he did come off. I liked his promos, this evening. Little arrogant, little cocky. Sort of felt like Bullet Club AJ at some point. So I don't know. I hope he does. I hope this is the start of the heel turn, because we kind of deserve it, I think, at this point. And I think AJ's career deserves a good old-fashioned heel turn. It'll do great for him. And it'll do great for Raw as well, because as it stands for like top tier, top level heels right now, it's a little dry. Raw's a little dry. They have great wrestlers that can be top tier heels, Drew McIntyre being one of them. But had they not spent the last 8 months, 6 to 8 months with these wrestlers in limbo, or trying to do stuff to try and put other wrestlers over, then we wouldn't have this problem. But there is a strong heel inadequacy on Raw right now. So I think there might be something here. CM Phil says in the chat, I think they're both tweeners. They both have an edge to them, which adds intrigue because either of them could feasibly turn. That's true. I mean, Seth did do whatever needed to be done, right? As AJ pointed out, to win. So we'll see what happens next. And you know what's going to happen next here for the Mr. Roy and Hayes show? We're going to wrap it up. Raw tonight, not a memorable episode. Let's put it that way. I thought the Becky Lynch segment was a lot of fun. And I don't think I'm going to remember much of anything here tonight. Everything was very, very passable. Except for some Firefly Funhouse, folks. That's where it's at. So listen, we're going to wrap this one up. I want to thank everyone for tuning in so late tonight. Came here live on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. Holy smokes. Thank you, everyone, for dropping by. Tomorrow, or later on, Tuesday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, I will be here. I will not be pulled away. I will be here on time to talk about SmackDown Live, and I hope you guys are around here as well. And that's it. I just hope you be here. So thank you all so very much for joining me this evening, and I'll see you next time.